So is Typhoid Eric going to be joining us?
No, he has a client today, and he's got the strep for or whatever. What did he say? What the second diagnosis was after the strep throat?
Was it a diagnosis or just Ashley saying that's might be what he has?
Yeah, his wife.
My daughter has similar symptoms to Eric. Started on Sunday, and she's already missed one day of school. It's a bad one, and I didn't have those symptoms last week, so I assume I'm susceptible to this. I had other bad symptoms.
For a second there, I thought she was lifting weights and getting tattoos and stuff like that.
No, just that really, really bad sore throat, hard to swallow things.
God. Yeah. Did any of y'all get the flu shots this year?
No.
I haven't gotten a flu shot in years, and I'm to the point where now, like, I've heard enough horror stories that
it wasn't that bad. I don't know. I mean, I was really, really, really sick for 2 days. I mean, it was bad those days, and then the rest of the week it's just fatigue and just just trying to get over it. But for me, it wasn't bad. I don't know that I had the flu or not. I mean, my symptoms pretty much matched the symptoms except without the fever. Instead, I was extremely cold. I mean, I could not get warm enough. So.
I have that same symptom, but it's because it's cold here.
Oh, yes. Today is a high of 82, luckily, so not as hot as yesterday, the day before.
Very nice. Very nice.
Brent will be there in 3 hours.
Oh, man, I'm telling you, I've been looking at apartments in San Diego, just going through on my iPad continuously every night before I go to bed. Miami 70. Yeah, but you came on after I said, so I've been watching the FX American Crime Stories about the murder of Gianni Versace this week.
Oh, yeah.
It's really good. It's really
check it out.
Creepy. I mean, it is not family friendly, but it's really good. And they're using helicopter and drone shots of South Beach. And I'm like, these are today because half these buildings are new. They weren't there when Versace.
No, I remember walking by there not so long after it happened. And it was just eerie, the police tape and all boarded up. It was like, ooh.
Mm. Yeah, it was a man in a blue hoodie wearing large red microphones. No, they never did catch the guy. Yeah, it's totally creepy. Oh, nice.
Yeah, just so you know, Brent, this is a faux reproduction of Link's tunic in Breath of the Wild, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
So did you hit your last shrine yet?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. And now I'm working on all the DLC content that they had, which is no joke. No joke. It's messing me up pretty hard.
Richie Rump, Switch professional.
Well, can I get paid for that? Because that would be nice.
Unit testing Nintendo's content.
Well, I play more because my wife would let me play more. Oh, you can pay for it? Okay, go ahead.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, now I got to go look and see what I just got a new game on my phone. I can't remember which one it was.
Grand Theft Auto 6. DBA professional.
That would normally be the kind of thing I would play. Let's see here.
No access for you. No access for you. No access for you. Like the whole game.
You're just continuously deleting people's accounts. No, I'm going to feel so ashamed saying this out loud. I went back to 2048. That old swipe around Rubik's Cube kind of game.
Oh, yeah. Well, why don't you just get the real thing? And
no. There was a magician on Ellen. I should have forwarded the video on the Slack channel. There's a magician on Ellen who solves those, but he solves them blindfolded and all kinds of weird stuff. He looks at the cube to figure out what moves he needs to do and then just does his thing. It's pretty nuts.
Those people scare me. Seriously, those people, it's magic.
You can make a living doing anything.
It's voodoo.
All right. Well, we got a bunch of tech questions in here, so we'll go ahead and get started. Let's see. Brent asks, not me, but obviously a different Brent. I was wondering if you know of a simple way to fill tempdb.
You've come to the right place with the right question.
Wow, these are the questions we love. He says, I'm testing out a monitoring tool and it never shows me more than 10% of space used, except I have queries saying that they're out of space on tempdb. Oh, that's lovely. How would y'all fill up tempdb if you were given that mission?
Doesn't Eric have a script or something like that from the Dell DBA days?
Yes.
Yeah. So whatever that does.
Exactly.
What you do is you set up a table with like a char 8000 field or char 8000 field, depending on how you like to pronounce your data types. I hate char because I'm like, why would you want to burn your data? I'm a caring guy, so I say var and char. But a char 8000, not varchar, char 8000, which forces it to take up a whole page for every single row. And then you can insert a bunch of rows into that. Or if you want, just do SelectStar from sys messages into tempdb. Just keep naming it with different table names continuously, and you'll fill up tempdb pretty quickly. Sys messages is a bunch of error messages in all kinds of different languages, and it's spectacularly large. I think Eric taught me that one too. I'd never seen that before. I'm like, where are you getting all this data from?
And one thing to note about the error is coming when the users are running the query. So by the time you go to check the space, because they ran out of space, they have rolled back. So when you're looking, it's not going to be full anymore.
I think, Richie, did you just pull up a different Rubik's Cube?
No, but I do have another Rubik's Cube, but it's smaller.
My God.
This is what I do during builds, by the way. Just waiting for stuff.
James May says, and I don't usually use last names, but James May I have to use because that's awesome. And I've been watching
Obviously,
Grand
yes.
Tour. Yeah. Says, we are paying someone to back up our data warehouse to tape. Richie does that with pen and paper too. His services are. He says, they don't think they also need database backups and they won't test the tape backups unless we pay them. How would you communicate to the other stakeholders that this is really bad? Well, how would you guys do that? How would you guys approach it for that?
Well, in my opinion, if you aren't testing your backups and you don't have access to those, these are not real backups. I don't care what you're paying another company to do, but I think that this is ridiculous. From a DBA standpoint, I would be sure to be doing SQL Server backups and then move those files to tape. But I need the actual SQL Server backups because I don't know that this other company is doing the backups correctly, especially if they're not going to test them unless we pay them.
I got to think that they would give a free, like, periodic test too. You know, you would think that they would do some kind of part of their service agreement, one free test every 30 days.
I'm thinking you could do something creative. I'm not thinking anything on top of my head, but like have like everybody in the room sign their name on a piece of paper and bring it back in, and then mark one with the X, and then send it back out, and like, hey, that one's corrupted. You just don't know of it yet. Or have them guess like which name it has a corruption.
You can tell Richie's been watching magic videos. It's like he's putting the pieces of paper underneath cups and moving them around on the. Now guess where your data files are.
David Blaine for life.
Paul Olson says, if a view definition is defined with read uncommitted isolation level, I'm guessing he means with no lock hints on the queries, but a query uses read committed isolation calling the view, does that affect the lock hints in the query plan versus a query calling the view with read uncommitted?
In a view, can't you set the isolation level to read uncommitted, or would that throw out syntax error?
I don't know. I know you can use with no lock, but I don't know if you can set the isolation level for the whole view.
Yeah.
I know that if you change the whole database's default isolation level to RCSI, read committed snapshot isolation, if you use with no lock, you still get dirty reads, like that hint overrides it. So that's my guess, is that the hint will still override it.
It should. Read uncommitted is considered, it will override read committed, but only for the view. If you're calling the view in an outer query, the rest of the stuff should be read committed.
Oh man! So of course, I really want to do this. So let's fire up. I got SSMS here. Why don't we? Hey, come on, let's do it. Let's do it live. Where's my SSMS? All right. So I'm going to fire open SQL Server Management Studio. Why not? We'll all learn together. And then we will go create a table, create a view on top of that. So let's go create a query. Pop into the Stack Overflow database, use Stack Overflow, go create table, DBO webcast attendees, ID int, identity 11, primary key clustered, which I probably don't have to do here, but I'm there. Attendee name, varchar 50, because I'm lazy, and I can't type anything correctly today. Insert into DBO Webcast attendees, attendee name, values, Tara Kaiser. Man, what a mess I am at typing today. Boom, boom. Richie Romp and James May. All right, so we got those folks in there. Now let's do create a view, create view, DBO view. Jeremiah told me to never use VW as SelectStar from DBO Webcast attendees with no lock. Let's go execute that guy. So then, yeah, I'm going to begin tran, update DBO Webcast attendees set, attendee name equals, we'll set everybody to Jane Doe, and we won't do a commit, so we got a transaction hanging open there. Now over in another window, I'm going to say SelectStar from DBO view, like I'm ever going to be able to retype that view name again. Got to go back and copy paste that. Oops. There we go. Execute, and it works. All right, so that's kind of cool. So the with no lock in the view is overriding my default isolation level. So if I roll this back, roll back, and then I'm going to go back and alter the view, create or alter view, and take, oh, you can't create or alter a view? Are you kidding me? How ghetto is that? Man, I love the create or alter command. It's so awesome. Oh, it works. Just IntelliSense doesn't get it. Okay, cool. That's fine. So now let's begin tran again and update everybody to Jane Doe. Now let's go back and select from the view, and it's blocked. So yes, we now know that the no lock hints in the view for sure override whatever's in your default isolation level. Ta-da! All right. Well, don't we all feel smarter now? I feel smarter. And I guarantee you I'm never going to use that again in my life. Never. Not going to happen. Just like all of my high school experience. Sri asks, are there any tools to retrieve the data from transaction logs for stuff like deleted records and drop tables? I usually keep 24 hours of logs and full backups for 3 days. Is there any free way to read the transaction log? Uh-oh. Are you muted?
Yeah, sorry, I was muting myself because the dogs. Doesn't Quest, it's not free, but Quest has the log reader available in their, what's the name of their tool?
Toad and Lightspeed.
Lightspeed, yeah.
It used to work with native backups. Now it only works with Lightspeed backups.
Ah,
So you have to be using it. Yeah. Yeah, that was recent because I just went to go do a demo with it, and I was like, wait, what happened here? There's FN dump DB log too. Like the list of undocumented commands to use it is a giant pain in the rear. It works. It's just slow as all get out. And what it doesn't show you, what I bet you want, Sri, is you want to see who did the delete. You want to see like what their login name was, what the delete command is, and it doesn't give you all that reconstruction quickly.
Yeah, and if you just want to retrieve the data, just do a side-by-side restore and do point-in-time recovery. You have the backup, so you as long as you know what time, around what time it happened, you'll be able to, do point-in-time recovery and do it side-by-side so you don't have downtime associated with the restore. But you can read. You make sure you put it into the mode where you can still query the database as you're doing the restores. That way, you can keep applying and not have to start over with a full backup restore.
With standby.
That's it.
Marcy asks, and hi, Marcy, haven't seen you in a while. Hi, I'm not a stupid person. Marcy's not a stupid person, but Visio really challenges me. Visio challenges me as well. She says, do you guys have a tool you like to diagram server architectures? Richie, there's one you use. What's the 3D?
So I guess there's a couple things like server architectures, meaning the actual
services,
the actual server, like how many servers do I have in that. I think Kendall had a tool to do all that, and it's a PowerShell SQL doc or something like that.
No, but the diagramming, what's that 3D
so
architecture?
That's the other part of it. That's data architecture, not server architecture, right? So we get deep here because there's people whose jobs that all they do is they do data modeling. And there's a couple tools that you could try, all of which are very expensive. I am so very sorry. But Irwin is like the granddaddy of them all. that does all this stuff. My favorite, which is ER Studio, that was purchased by Adira recently, I believe. And then folks really like Power Designer, and I think SAP bought them a few years back. Those are the big three if you want to do some heavy-duty data modeling, and it does everything that you want to do. You could create trigger templates and do all this other cool stuff with it, and every single one of them is those three are phenomenal. If you're more budget conscious, I've used Toad Data Modeler, and that is free for up to 25 objects. So if you want to do something small or just kind of try it out, that's another tool that's out there. And there's a bunch. There's a whole Wikipedia article on data modeling tools, and your head will just spin with all these data modeling tools that are out there. But those are the big three, and then I've also used Toad Data Modeler as well.
And I want to say it was you that turned me on to this Cloudcraft too. If you want just diagrams of where servers are and web servers, app servers, storage, this thing is fantastic. And then the other one, Draw.io, I can't remember if I saw that one or not. Yeah, no, I haven't seen that. As soon as it opens JavaScript, I'm like, which I love JavaScript, don't get me wrong, but as soon as any kind of thing pops up, no, Cloudcraft was the big one there.
Yeah, Cloudcraft is what I use for all my AWS kind of mapping stuff and diagramming.
Beautiful.
They're gorgeous.
Let's see. Rick says, have you ever tried Oracle SQL Data Modeler? No, we don't pay Richie enough to use Oracle tools. It's not.
They pay me at Postgres levels. That's what they pay me at right now.
MySQL. Rick says, Oracle Data Modeler is free. Why do I have such a hard time believing that? Is it that they're taking
with Oracle?
Yeah, or taking the blood of your children, and I love Oracle. Don't get me wrong; they're wonderful, nice sailboats, nice people.
Great jackets.
Great jackets, which it's a miracle I'm not wearing one of those right now. Tammy says, "What are your favorite counters for checking if SQL Server on VMware has sufficient memory? We had our infrastructure team add more memory to a server without asking." What? You should hug them. When a customer complained that an application was performing poorly, it made it look like the DBA team wasn't doing its job. We use a monitoring tool to monitor servers, and we never saw an issue. Bring them bourbon. Hug them. That's great. That's fantastic. They're on your corner. That's good. It could be worse. They could be taking it away. Nobody wants to add anything.
Well, I mean, does your monitoring tool show you the weight stats? I believe SolarWinds does. Yeah. So, whether or not you can read it is another story. But see what it shows in the past. Was there memory pressure? The server team maybe added more memory because it looked like the server had low memory. But if SQL Server is configured properly, it's always going to be high memory utilization from the server level. And I mean, they'll just have to keep adding memory if that's the metric that they're looking at. So I would look into SQL Server to see if it was under memory pressure, just to prove that you guys were doing your job in the due diligence. If that's what you're after.
Well, wait, we could use that scenario, right? So maybe you're under provisioned a little bit, and so you just keep bumping up the memory, and then they throw more memory in, and then you just bump it up, and then I don't know what's going on. You just give me more memory.
Yeah. I was so horrible. I would know from overhearing that one of my sysadmins was going to look at VMware utilization on a certain date to do utilization checks, and I would load up CPU benchmark tools on a bunch of VMs. It's looking pretty underpowered. It's a terrible person. Let's see here. Thomas asks, I'm having an issue with subscriptions with SSRS. Uh-oh. Well, I'll keep reading even though we're all incompetent on that. He says, I'm able to log into Report Manager. When I open it as an admin, I select the report, it runs fine. However, when I try to connect a subscription, I get an error saying that the credentials aren't stored. When I update the stored credentials, the report won't run. I'm using Windows authentication. None of us know SSRS. Yeah. I should have read deeper into that question first.
I've used quite a bit of SSRS, but never the subscriptions anyway. It was always on-demand stuff. So, yeah, I couldn't answer it.
I used SSRS in beta back in 2000. Does that count?
My first interaction
before 2000. It wasn't in 2000, but
yeah. Yeah, my
Dang.
first interaction was 12, 13 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, and I was hacking the hell out of it because they were getting all the reports in XML, and we were just taking that and just throwing it on the web and taking pieces that we want. And yeah,
Nice.
those were the bad old days.
So never mind. I was going to say, I'm going to have you go to work on that when we get off the call and just publish some of our stuff in reporting services on the web. Can't be that hard. You said you've done it before.
I have better tools now, Brent, please.
James May says, Thomas asks a follow-up. He says, what do you guys use for automated reporting? Oh, we don't. We don't do reporting anymore. And it's not that anything against reporting. Like I'm a belief that people should do reporting. We just don't specialize in it. We're super specialized in one thing, incompetence. We're really, really good at incompetence. Answering questions for free. Actually, not even answering questions for free, because you see by these answers, we don't even know they have the answer to that question. So we're not even that good at that. James says, after running SP Blitz, I've got 1,000 things to do, but my boss wants change control requests for each one. How do I talk him out of that?
I mean, as a production DB, I hate having to do change requests. I just want to do the work and, nothing to track. I just don't want to do all that paperwork stuff. But from the company's perspective, I think it's a good thing to have, that we can go back in time and see if, a performance issue can correlate to a certain date, and just, having accountability in production. So I don't think I would talk him out of that. I would just go ahead and submit the change request for each of the items. I don't think there's going to be that many in SP Blitz that you need to take action on for it to be so cumbersome to fill out these requests.
I would also, too, just make sure that you lay out pieces of paper or Word docs or whatever on your desk as you're doing it. So when people come in, you go, I'm sorry, I'm busy with change requests. Just make it real clear. And you print them out and you bring them to his office when you're done. All right, here, I've been working on these the last 2 days. Here you go. Mike says, is it possible to run out of CPU threads and yet not be at 100% CPU? Tara wrote a blog post about this, actually.
Yeah. What was the name of it?
Network issues or thread pool. I'll go get that.
So check out the blog post. I think it's from 2 weeks ago. You just search on thread pool if you can't find it. When you have thread pool weights, usually the ones that I've seen on client systems, or just from us demoing it, CPU utilization is going to be very low when you have run out of worker threads, because all those worker threads are sitting there doing nothing but waiting on the blocking to clear. So they're not even doing anything. They're not using CPU. So you probably will see even low CPU utilization, unless if the top blocker is doing a scan of a large table, then that, you might see high CPU utilization, but oftentimes you will see low CPU utilization when you run out of worker threads.
Let's see. Next up, Mike says, oh, nice. Let's see here. Wes says, I'm using a customer supplied query that does a select into. All of the things in the from statement have fully qualified names in a derived table. I've seen conflicting views on the columns being listed in the, I'm not even sure what you're asking.
Yeah.
Try rewording that and see what you mean there. Tom says, when I try to run CheckDB, and my database is 1.6 terabytes, I get an error about being out of space on tempdb. Tempdb is 50 gigabytes. Well, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Can't you do a snapshot on the drive where drive you have space, and it'll use that instead of tempdb, something like that?
Yeah, it does, but then there's gotchas with, like, when the memory grant is too large and has to end up doing some spills to disk, it ends up spilling to tempdb. I would just change to doing physical only. So if you do CheckDB with physical only, it's not as good as real CheckDB, but it's just a start and doesn't require all the tempdb data space.
Or do the Paul Randall approach where you break things up and you do a little bit of work each day. So you do some tables, you do check table, check ALEC, and whatever the other one is. I think there's 3 of them. You just do a little bit of work per day, then you won't need as much space.
That's my personal philosophy as well. Only a little bit of work each day. Don't need as much space. Wes says, he follows up with, what are the best practices for SelectStar into? Oh, SelectStar into.
I deciphered his code in his original question.
Oh, no. So the problem with SelectStar into is as people add new columns, you're going to get those in your code, whether you want them or not. And some yo-yo is going to add a JSON or an XML column or a var binary max. The idiot will be Richie, but he's going to be doing it on purpose to break your code. So I don't really blame him. I kind of like him for that.
Yeah, definitely just put the columns that you want on there to avoid memory grant issues.
Yeah, the way I usually work with SelectStar is if I'm just doing ad hoc and I'm just querying the database for just getting information, like on my own, I'll use SelectStar all day long. The moment it needs to be be checked in to anything, all the columns need to be there.
Yeah, I like it. Tammy says on her follow-up for the VM team who gave her memory as a Christmas gift without looking, but they were trying to like pull her pants down, make her look stupid. She says the follow-up, they were looking at page life expectancy and page reads. Yeah.
They might have been doing the wrong thing there because page life expectancy is going to plummet anytime you do, index maintenance. And so maybe you're doing index maintenance and that's when they looked in the morning after that because it is going to be low. That does not mean you have memory pressure.
And it could be like that they just looked at something. There's a lot of old posts out there that say if it's below 300, then you have a problem. If your storage is fast enough, you could even have a low page life expectancy and not be waiting on the storage. I like you mentioned that you're using SolarWinds. I would keep using SolarWinds and wait stats tracking over those two counters. Those two counters aren't very good. But I just say, oh, sysadmins, you're right. Oh, yeah, you keep an eye on those numbers for me. And if you see them low, just keep the memory coming. James asks, if you had to choose between a failover SQL Server versus a failover SAN, which would you go with?
I don't like having to make the decision personally, but it means that the company isn't going to be investing much money into high availability, which is extremely important to a business. And so, how robust is the SAN? And I mean, how often does the SAN fail as compared to say a Windows crash or a SQL Server crash or something like that? I would want a failover server if I had to choose between that and a failover SAN. I have a feeling though that choice isn't being made because a failover SAN is going to be a lot more expensive than a failover server. So do you really, I don't know. Failover server for me.
Or you're talking about a really crappy SAN, like a
exactly.
$10,000 SAN or something.
I don't want that anyway.
No, those NAS toasters. Paul says, can you actually see the objects from SQL servers that are going to disk when a server is paging? I want to know which stored procedures were pushed to the page file. Oh, that's tricky.
Well, SP who is active, right? If you're logging that to a table, look for the ones that have page IOLHS H weights.
Well, but that's just reading pages from a disk. I think he wants to know when the whole thing swaps to disk, like the C drive. So your face.
Does that even happen anymore? I always get the sense that everyone doesn't think that the page file is a big deal these days with SQL Server.
I'll specifically set in our setup checklist, I'm like, set the page file at 0 or whatever is required to do a mini dump, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it's like, depending on the version of Windows, it's like 100 megabytes or 2 gigabytes. But no, if you go to disk, it's not because of your stored procedures. It's because some other process piped up and wanted RAM on the SQL Server, and SQL Server can't see what it was. I see it when people do SSRS analysis services and integration services all on the same box, like some kind of clown car. And then at the exact moment that integration services fires up and it's trying to repopulate a cube by querying the database, all three of these things want memory at the same time. And, you can only fit so much poop in a 5-pound bag. James says, how would you back up a database that is permanently in standby or read-only? You can back up a read-only database.
Yeah.
And you can't do it in standby. Assuming it's like a mirrored secondary, you can't touch that, but I'd back up the primary. But you can back up read-only ones.
Yeah.
Then the bigger question would be, should you back up read-only databases? And I'm like, well, some yo-yo is going to flip it on. It's like going to flip it on and make it writable and do something with it and flip it back, and then I'm the one who's going to get fired for it. So I'm like, if it's production, I'm going to back it up. It may not be every day, maybe once a week or once a month or something. But Rob says, drum roll, I will soon install 4 named instances on a 3-node always-on availability group cluster. No failover clustered instances, just always-on availability groups. He says, you have to run the SQL install on the primary, then the same install on the secondaries using all the same drive letters. Sound about right?
No. You just, at the time of restore, when you're prepping the data, the secondaries, you just use the with move command, and it'll work from there. No?
No. Because the problem is, as soon as some yo-yo goes and adds a data file or a log file, you're screwed. Because if the path doesn't exist on all of the instances, immediately availability groups break. So you can fix it by running a subsequent restore with move or backup restore with move type command.
So you can do it until somebody adds a file.
Yeah. Yo-yos. And like in terms of which one you install on, you can do them all simultaneously if you wanted to. That's totally okay. Let's see.
Who's adding files after the fact anyway? That happen. It's very, very rare. So you could just do that in maintenance window, add it, and then you restore the secondaries again.
Well, if you're building them from scratch, though, just make them all identical.
Yeah. I want them identical, definitely.
Yeah. Last one, Srijith asks, we're performing benchmark testing for SQL Server on Linux and Windows. We did every effort, look at Tara's laughing. We did every effort to keep everything the same, but the Linux transactions per second and response time doesn't keep up with Windows. We suspect Linux as a possible culprit. What should we look out for on Linux? Should probably look out for Linux.
Nobody's using this in production, right?
Nobody. We offered a Linux class temporarily, and we had to close it because nobody wanted to go. There are people talking about using SQL Server on Linux, I just haven't seen anybody using it to solve a production problem yet. I'd open a support call with Microsoft.
Yeah. I mean, but take into consideration how much development time have we had on SQL Server on Linux? A couple years at the best, and how many we had on Windows? 30. Where we're pushing 30. So yeah, it's going to be slower because performance tweaks are the last things that we do in software development. That's sad but true, but it's kind of what happens. So I'd expect it to be slow before it comes out. I'd expect it to be a lot slower even before V2 or V3.
And there were people at Microsoft who are going, hey, look, this is going to be faster because memory management is slightly different. And I'm like, oh, I don't know that I would bet on that horse. I mean, there's a lot going on with performance tuning above and beyond that. So,
yeah, and I hope they're right. But I don't think it's going to happen. But I've been wrong before. I didn't think the Cubs would win a World Series. So
before, you've been wrong today.
I've been wrong a lot today.
Oh, the fun of testing. Well, we are going to go back to testing our software or breaking our software, whatever. We will see y'all next week at Office Hours. Adios, everybody.
Bye.